This is Art Television.
So this is a Buddhist society of Western Australia. You know, it's always important to try and be inclusive as much as we can. And to have that inclusion, we sometimes find that what helps include all of the parts of your body. And sometimes all the sicknesses and the health, whatever you have in this body. This is all part of you. And when you understand about what inclusion means, your whole body can relax so deeply. It doesn't relax, well, okay, I think you understand this, through exercise. Most of my exercises, just the natural exercises, but most of my exercises are just learning how to be peaceful. Letting the body sort of balance itself, fix itself up, hour after hour. And I'm just taken by surprise sometimes at just how powerful that can be for your physical health. Just simple things like having coughs, colds, indigestion, anything else in the body. Apparently, for my whole life, I've never broken a bone in my body, which is weird being a boy. I wasn't sort of mollycoddled or protected in any which way. I used to like playing sport and just going to tackles in soccer, but I was never really aggressive, not even in sport, which meant that I could care for my body. Not only that, but just care for any sicknesses or illnesses which I had. It was one of the reasons why that many years ago you realized that it's more important to learn how to care for your body than cure it. More important to understand it with kindness, which means to understand it means you have to be aware of it. So when there's any problem, you don't try and get rid of it. That's how I felt even as a young man. You understand it and learn from it and grow from it. And one of the best ways of getting inside aches and pains in the body was this kindness. Even I'm supposed to give a talk tomorrow on loving kindness, and the reason good old Anusha, she suggested this, I'm very happy to help whichever way I can. She suggested doing this because on the 14th day it's Valentine's Day. Okay, you all know that. A few days' time. But anyway, I think you also know, please, you have to humour me sometimes, because I've got a nature which is very hard to overcome, and it's the Valentine's Day joke. It was about a couple of days before Valentine's Day, and the guy said, darling, my business has been going very well, so I can afford a nice Valentine's Day gift for you. What would you like? And she said, oh, nothing, I don't need anything. She said, no, what can I get you? And she looked him in the eye and said, diamonds. Anything with diamonds in. And that's what, I don't know why, but anyway, they're only stones from the ground. I don't know why people like diamonds. But anyway, she said, okay. So on the Valentine's Day, she had this beautiful gift. And it was wrapped in just his gift paper with a beautiful sign on the front, to my darling, with all my love. And she was so pleased when she received this. The love of her life had been giving her something really, really amazing. And when she opened it up, the first thing she did after opening that up was call the lawyer to file for divorce. Because inside was a pack of playing cards. It had 13 diamonds inside. That's what you asked for, anything with diamonds in. But anyway, you know that sometimes telling jokes is also another way to express one's kindness and love towards one another. Sharing things together is one of the reasons why sometimes I do enjoy telling jokes. And especially just things like funeral services. And I don't know why. I went to 2 funeral services last week. And I don't know why people get so serious at funeral services, honestly. We're celebrating somebody's life. We say that, so why don't we really celebrate it? I don't mean with alcohol or lots and lots of food and stuff, but just being kind to one another. And people enjoy funny stories. But I always remember, and I've been here in Perth for almost 40 years now. Actually, 39 years, I think, next Waisak, because I came just in Waisak time. And all those times I remember just being rebellious. Being rebellious is part of spirituality. You can notice many religious leaders got into big trouble. I mean, big trouble. I haven't got into big trouble, but, sometimes trouble. But I just always remember just the first time at a funeral service when I did tell a joke. And if you've ever been to funerals, this was maybe 30 years ago now, 35 years ago. And remember just, those who've been to the funeral services years ago, that the priest, whoever it was standing in the front. And the funeral directors were in the back. And I remember when I started the joke, the funeral directors, they were terrified. I was going to tell a joke, and they knew it was coming, and just, no, don't do that. But they couldn't stop me. And the family was so happy afterwards. So, I don't know if you know the joke about the 2 people who died almost on the same day. They'd been married for years and years and years together. And so when one died, the other person died. And so they went up to heaven together. They met by the angel. The angel said, "You've been really good people. I've come to show you your heavenly reward." And there's this beautiful mansion. If any of you are looking for a house, I mean, it's not a house, this is an incredible place. It was on the cliffs with $1 billion views. And when the man saw that, he said, "I'm sorry, this is a beautiful mansion, but I can never ever afford the council rates." And he said, "Look, there's no council rates up in heaven. You don't have to pay tax in heaven." So that's really good. And he showed him inside, and inside that mansion, it was amazing what was there. Even the chandeliers were all done with Waterford crystal. And the TV set was so huge. You could watch a whole football match or cricket match or tennis match. And it was just so huge. It was like actually being there as it happened. Until whatever footy team you liked would always win. And even in the bathroom, the toilet was of course solid gold, and the little thing on top which you press to make, to flush the toilet, that was a diamond crystal. And when you flushed the water, it wasn't water came out, but Chanel No. 5. And the guy said, "This is just too much. I won't be able to afford the insurance premiums." I said, "Insurance premiums? What are you talking about? This is heaven. We don't allow burglars and thieves up here. You don't need insurance. And took them to the garage, triple garage. The first car was a stretch limousine. I mean, a real stretch limousine. There was a swimming pool in the back. The second car was an all-terrain vehicle. They may have seen some of these all-terrain vehicles on the advertisements on TV, but this was something special. Could not only go in deserts and cross-country, could even go up waterfalls. Don't tell me how. And then the last car was a Bugatti. Fast car. Is that right, Bugatti? I got it right. Yay! He'd always wanted. You've ever wanted to drive a really fast car? What's the point? If you drive a fast car here in Perth, you get caught in traffic jams. Well, not actually traffic jams now, road extensions or widening extensions, or just flyovers, or new sort of places so the train can go underneath or over the top or something. Oh, they're just around. I don't know what it's like this week. The last week, all these sort of roadworks up in Wanneroo Road and Morley Drive. And we got really caught in that, last time. We decided to take a shortcut and we just really lost quite a lot of hours. And just even today, so I came up Tonkin Highway today. More roadworks. Oh, we don't have a fast car, but if we did, what's the point? And anyway, the man said that, just what's the point? You get done by speed cameras. I like fast cars, but the police will catch me. And the angel said, look, there's no need for police with speed cameras up in heaven. You're all good people. Why do we need police for? And also, you can go as fast as you like. You're already dead. So what does it matter if you have a crash? And then there's so I opened the garage doors on the opposite side of the road was a golf course. A beautiful 18-hole golf course with a really expensive clubhouse. And he said, we know how much you love playing golf. So we built this golf course on the opposite side of the road to your house, your mansion, your heavenly reward. And he said, once you get the ball on the green, whichever way you putt it, it always goes in the hole. It's heaven. And he looked at the expensive clubhouse and he said, look, I can't afford, the fees and stuff you have to do to join an elite golf course like this. And the angel said, listen, sir, you're already a member. Not a life member, a death member. You can play whenever you want. And at that, the angel left them. And that was at that point. I remember telling this once to this cancer support group, and they'd laughed their heads off, but I think the leader of that just really scowled at me, then started laughing. Because the punchline is that the man got very angry at his wife. He was shouting at her, screaming at her. He said, why are you getting angry at me now? You're dead. So am I. You got your beautiful mansion, all these incredible things in the house. Don't have to worry about burglars. You got your fast car. You can go as fast as you want. If you crash, it doesn't matter. You're only dead, so it doesn't matter. And you've got your golf course on the other side of the road. Yes, darling, he said angrily. Was that good? I need to have some acting training somewhere. Yes, darling. But if it wasn't for all that health food you gave me over the last 3 years, I could have been up here years ago. Oh, this lady, she really told me off. I'm trying to get them healthy. And you tell those jokes. Well, I told that one at the funeral. That was the first one I told at the funeral. I said, if they hadn't sent you to the doctor, your grandfather or something, to the doctor, hadn't sort of given all this health food and good advice, they could have been up there playing golf about 3 years ago. You can see the purpose of a joke like that. We try and sort of keep ourselves healthy as we possibly can, but also, there's more to life than avoiding death. It's the quality of your life. And I often say that to people. The length of your life is not as important as the quality of it. How you live is just the most amazing thing. And don't always feel that you are that death owns you or controls you and gives power over you. Remember, sometimes that's what happens. We're afraid of dying. But most people are afraid of dying are also afraid of living. So don't be afraid of life. Then you find you're never really afraid of death. You keep on going and see what happens next. That's one of the reasons why, just push the envelope many times and tell funny stories. But it's not only that, it's just learning just how to be inclusive of all the people who come to a place like this. That many of them are not even Buddhists. Many of them are not really interested in Buddhism. But they come here because of a sense of inclusiveness and welcomeness. That's happened to me so many times. People come afterwards and say, when I came here, I wasn't really interested in Buddhism. I just came here for a bit of peace and quiet. I found the energy in the place was welcoming and peaceful and full of ease. That's so important. Even that sometimes I do have arguments sometimes with some of our traditional committee members. Because when people say, well, shouldn't we get people to dress properly when they come in here? Yeah, of course. Dress like me. This is proper. with a dress on. This is a monk's robe, this is what you're supposed to wear. But also that sometimes that I always remember this story, one of the most famous nuns, this Patachara, and I don't know if you heard or know her story, but when I started studying Buddhism and learning Pali and reading it, just the most authentic version she possibly could get hold of, what did the Buddha really teach? I remember reading and just was inspired. Reading in Pali, I got a brain on me and just make use of it the best way you can. And learn Pali. It wasn't hard, but it was inspiring afterwards. I started reading this stuff. And there was all these nuns, bhikkhunis, who, they've been practicing for years, not getting anywhere. And then this one bhikkhuni came along. And he said, this great master, mistress, whatever you call him. I don't know, why do they call monks masters? They don't call bhikkhunis mistresses. I never really figured that one out. But anyway, she came along and all these nuns became arahats, fully enlightened. And it stood out. And I thought, who the heck is this nun? And that was Patachara. And Patachara, she was a person who ran away with the love of her life, because she was high class, he was low class, so it didn't really fit in, and so they ran away. And then after she got pregnant, she decided to go and see her parents for the first time. Having a child would reconcile her parents with her husband. But then the child was born on the way, so they went back again. And when they had the second child, that was also born on the way, to see the parents for this, hopefully they said for the first time. And then this, the husband, because he'd just given birth on the way, in the forest basically, he started collecting some wood to make a fire to keep, just his wife warm after giving birth. And unfortunately, he got bitten by a snake and killed. So this poor woman just had 2 very young children and was grieving the loss of her husband. So she carried on the journey, and as she was about to cross a river, it was too flooded to take the children across in one go. So she put her elder son on one side of the river and said, "You stay here, and you don't move until I give you a signal." And she took her new baby across. She was strong enough to get across the river, placed her baby just safely on the other side, and started wading back. And that's when she heard the sound of an eagle. She turned around, the eagle swooped down and picked up her little baby. And she was in the middle of the stream. And she waved her arms, screamed to try and scare the eagle away. But the eagle took her kid. But as she was screaming, her elder son thought, "Oh, Mummy's calling me," and started going into the river and got caught up by the current and swept away. So this poor woman, Patachara her name was, just right there and then, the same day, had lost her husband and her 2 kids. And as she staggered to the shore, she thought the only thing you can do now is to go and see her parents. And as she was walking to the village, she found out the reason why that river was flooded more than usual. It had been a big storm the night before. When she asked the villagers where her parents were, she found that their parents had been killed in that storm the night before. In one day, she'd lost her husband, her 2 children, and her parents. And she was crazy after that. She lost her mind. The grief was so strong that she was running around, not like a mad woman. She was mad at the time. And she wandered in to the Buddhist monastery. This is how we know the story. There's a Buddhist monastery she wandered into where the Buddha was giving a talk. And the Buddha just saw her coming. Other people saw her coming, but by this time, she had no clothes on at all, nothing on at all. She was totally naked. And she was young. A young woman wandering into a monastery, a Buddhist temple, with no clothes on. And I often ask, what would you do if a naked, crazy woman came in here right now? "You can't come in here. We've got monks here, we've got to protect them." You're okay. But the Buddha said, "No, let her come in." And he got one of the spare robes from one of the monks, put it around her, taught her some very simple lessons of meditation. She eventually, she stayed, she ordained, became a fully ordained nun. And it was her who became this amazing teacher, who actually just could inspire people so deeply, so authentically. That was the purpose. The authenticity of her was so strong that people she taught got the message straight away and became fully enlightened. The greatest female teacher in the time of the Buddha. Wow. And that's where it started from. I often say, look, understand what this Buddhism or what religion, what spirituality is all about. Let people come in. Don't throw them out. Even little kids come in. Don't so exclude them. Even people who just ask silly questions. No question is silly. Have you ever tried to ask a question and you feel that people aren't respecting your question and just trying to get rid of you? I've had that happen to me so many times when I was a young monk, or just even like a young man. It's always incredibly important very smart people, you ask them a question, they just, oh, well, just read my book, you'll find it there. All they were doing is trying to get rid of you. Sometimes even when people ring the monastery, I tell the other monks to tell them, look, if you want to talk with Ajahn Brahm, he's just too busy. And if you want any chanting, actually that's the only way you can. What was it? That's an automatic answer machine. That's where I was coming from. Sorry, automatic answer machine. If you ring up monastery, so if you want some chanting, just press 1, and you'll get some chanting. If you want to speak to Ajahn Brahm, press 1 anyway. You haven't got enough good karma. Or something like that. But it was amazing just how welcoming. I don't want to do things like that because that is rejecting people. Sometimes I do get tired because I do too much. Just like going to Melbourne. That's a silly idea to get to Melbourne. At this time I don't need to do that. But it's obvious they've been calling me up for a lot. I need to go there. So let's go and be kind and serve. What are you serving for? I don't get any money out of this. The Buddhist Society of West Australia, we're doing really well. You've got to face that, which is we need to spend more money instead of trying to collect more money. I know I get into trouble for this, but it's wonderful. So I don't need to go and do it, to go over to Melbourne. You do it over there because you're needed. It's wonderful to be able to share like that, to give. I'm trying to find as best as I possibly can the way that Ajahn Chah lived, the way that the Buddha lived, just the way that monks, nuns, we can give, we can care as best we possibly can. We try never ever to complain. That's maybe the difference between monks and nuns. Not complaining, giving as best we can. So anyway, little by little, just when I saw that example, you understand how you try and be inclusive, accepting of everybody who comes. And sometimes it's some of those people you don't know too much about or are a little bit different than you. Those are the ones you learn some of the best teachings from. And of course, one of those people was the old Benedict, it comes to my mind, the Benedictine Abbot Placid years ago. He became a very good friend, but the reason I mention him now is we had lots of discussions, and because I didn't reject his Catholicism, that we had great discussions. And one of the discussions we always had, which I really respect, was that time, when he said, what are your core beliefs as a Buddhist? And my core beliefs was kindness, compassion, and honesty. Maybe those are the 2 core beliefs which I have. They're important stuff. To be truthful and to be kind. And that just works so well with your meditation. Honesty is another word for real mindfulness. Be honest to what's happening. Honest to what's happening in your body. Be mindful, don't be scared of it. And the kindness, you can feel the power sometimes of compassion, kindness. It is like inviting people in, opening the door of your heart, opening the door of your temple, opening the door of wherever you happen to be living, if you possibly can, to give that opportunity for others to come in and see. It's one of the reasons why we don't have opening where you do have to check, make sure you've got a mask on or whatever. We don't really check you too much, I hope. Hopefully you all feel welcome here. But don't lock the doors. And that's one of the reasons we don't lock the doors, so we can let people go when they want to leave. So a little bit, but anyway, this Abbot Placid, he once told me his core beliefs. He was a Christian, okay? And he was always saying that my core beliefs are that everyone is searching for God. I always remember him saying that. Do you agree with that? So, I didn't agree with that either. But then I respected it. Agreeing with it and respecting it are two different things. And respecting it, then I took it forward, because I was asked when I was giving a presentation with him at UWA, because somebody asked me just, what is the Buddhist idea of God? And straight away my instinct was to say, oh, Buddhists don't believe in a creator God. But that doesn't take the conversation anywhere. It's truthful. The Buddha rejected the idea of a creator God. But that creates arguments. Instead I said, why don't we, I think that's God calling. Anyway, that's when I said, well look, I respect my friend. So what are you searching for? What do you want? When you come here, why do you spend Friday evening at the Buddhist temple? Why have I been a monk for so many years? Why? What are you searching for? And I said, well, people hear what you search for. Is there some peace? I had this whole list of things. I've said this many times before. Respect. You want to be respected no matter where you come from, no matter what you look like. You don't want to be discriminated against. You don't want to be rejected. You don't want to feel that somehow that you're less than other beings. That's one of the reasons why religious discrimination, I saw that act didn't pass the Parliament in Canberra. And of course many of our friends, we did submissions to that bill on behalf of the Buddhist community here. So we were active in trying to make sure that some of the very offensive ideas in that bill were changed, or the whole bill was scrapped. Because everybody, no matter where you are in this world, you want to be respected. Never feel you're diminished in any which way, from where you come from, or what you've done in the past, or what you look like, or your gender, or your inclinations. You want to be accepted, embraced, with kindness and respect. So I said that that's what Buddhists search for. Respect, kindness, the ability to love and be loved. To me that's all about care. Attachment is another thing. And it's also, remember this, never actually fall in love with a tennis player, because love means nothing to them. Sorry. That's an old joke. I do apologise. But just that kindness and that ability. Sometimes people ask me, I've been a monk for so many years, don't you ever miss like love? It's on to Valentine's Day soon. And of course, I don't miss it, because I still have that. The beautiful idea of being able to care for not just one person, but for many people. And I do that. I care for you. I care for all the monks and the nuns who are part of our Buddhist society. For the hard-working committee. You don't have to be the president, you don't have to be the treasurers and stuff, but you're really, and the deputy secretary over there in the back. But you care for people. And whatever I can do to care more, please let me know. Isn't it wonderful to know that you can be in this role and you just have really good people behind you, supporting you all the way, in whichever way we can support you. And that means it is a spiritual community. That gives it strength. It's not how many assets we have, but how we care. makes it a community. And little by little, you find that these are the things which people search for, which they really want in life. So the community, the whole works of full members, half members, quarter members, I don't know what other members we have in our Buddhist society, life members, death members. Often really thought of having a new class of membership for 7 lifetimes. Because life membership, that's really common. But imagine that we can actually market this. How much is life membership in our Buddhist society? Life full membership? $900,000. Special. This year only. If you join as a full member, we'll give you 7 lifetimes for $3,000. That's a good deal. You get 4 lifetimes for free. Of course, that's a scam. How do you know you've been reborn again and prove it? But anyway, so a little bit of that kindness, learn to be loved, to be accepted, ability to love and care for others. That is what he was saying. But to have some peace, have some freedom, no compulsion. You come here because you like coming here. You don't need to stay here. Little by little, we find out that that is what people search for in life. The spiritual truths of life. When you know those, you can understand, oh, well, if that's what God is, according to an abbot of a Benedictine monastery, I'll put my hand up for that. In other words, it's not believing in a person who controls. It's believing in something much deeper, which does connect to everybody. How do you feel coming to Australia? How do you feel being born here? How do you feel just, with your sexuality, with your gender, just with your age, with all the difficulties in the body, getting old, getting sick, getting diseases? How do you feel all about all of that? Can't we be wider, be more embracing, not rejecting people, be basically kinder? What is kindness and care anyway? For you to say, the door of my heart is fully open, no matter who you are. That's what I learned from my father. He said, he started off the door of my house, where this is just a very small council flat. Incredibly tiny when I look back on it. But he said, that is always open to you. Doesn't matter what you do in your life. If you become a criminal, if you become notorious, if you become a monk. He actually never even thought of that possibility. Whoever you are, whatever you become, I'll never be ashamed of you. You're my son. That's more important than anything else. The door of my heart's open to you. That meant so much to me. I would never be rejected. I'd never be sent out. I'd never have his love taken away from me. That felt so important. Why can't we do that? Wider and wider and wider. You trust people. When you trust people, what happens is they become much better people. It's weird. I've been running Bodhinyana Monastery for how many years now? About 20 years, I think. Yeah, probably. Or maybe more. I lost count now. But a lot of times, the way which I set the tone there, we were just talking the other day someplace. There's something which we call the monastic rules. That's right, I went to the nuns' monastery last week, and one of the questions they asked me, so, what are the monastic rules in Bodhinyana Monastery? Because they were trying to compare them with the monastic rules in Dhammasara Monastery. And I said that the very first monastic rule is kindness, compassion. I made sure that I included that before all the other little rules, like what time you're going to get up in the morning, how you wash your bowl, all the other little duties specific to Bodhinyana monastery. Please make kindness the most important. Overrides everything else. And I'm very happy I did that, because that kindness should be the one thing which in a community like a Buddhist monastery is the most important rule. Should be the one rule in the Buddhist Society of Western Australia which is the most important rule for the committee, for the treasury, for the staff, for the volunteers, for everybody, and all the visitors as well. The kindness. How do you understand that kindness? The door's always open. Little by little, we find that that is rare, and it is wonderful. We try and listen to one another, learn and grow from one another, and that means we do really start a community, and it's something which everybody can come into. For years, when I first came here, I started visiting St. George's Cathedral for an annual Commonwealth Day conference. It was because Sri Lanka was supposed to be a Buddhist country as part of the British Commonwealth, and so I was representing Sri Lanka there. And that's where we really got to know many people over there. And one of the great achievements of my life, to call it achievements, was the friendships which you developed, and especially with the old dean of St. George's Cathedral. Was it Roberts, Dean Roberts? So much so that he invited me to go and give a sermon at St. George's Cathedral on Sunday at a full Eucharist. And I trusted him, and he said, he was very well educated, he said that was the first time in the history of the Anglican Church that a non-Christian gave the sermon at a Sunday service. That's me. Yay! And the reason I enjoyed that, was any of you there at that time? Went along? Yeah, you were there. Oh, very good. Because the reason I enjoyed that, the place was absolutely packed. No standing room. And then just remember that there was no Buddhists on this side, Christians on the other side. It's everybody was all just mingled. Did you know who was who? I kind of like that. You have different ideas. We have different genders, different ages. But can't we use our spirituality, use our strengths, and work together to improve Christianity by being a good Buddhist? By being a good Buddhist and actually being open to others, getting some feedback. It's very powerful. So little by little, I'll always be a Buddhist. It's my view, and I've always been meditating. But then again, that doesn't mean you should cast off and cut yourself apart from others. I'm celibate. Always will be now. But does it mean that I don't respect other people who don't live a monastic life? That respect is important. And that means you are opening up to others, not rejecting anyone, and certainly not stigmatizing people. That's the bit which I found very unpleasant. When other people are stigmatized, because, in the old days, because they were gay, now it's LGBTQIA+. But I remember when sometimes that really gets me going. I was heterosexual, I had girlfriends, but I remember just when somebody who came here complained. They read something in the paper. It was actually a misquote, but it was published that the Dalai Lama said you can't be a Buddhist and gay, period. That's what was in the newspaper. It was published here. So we said, look at this. Is this true, Ajahn Brahm? They were saying, please, please, please say it's not true. Because at last, people who were different, they found a place where they could feel they were respected, not stigmatized. This was years ago, okay? And I said, well, I don't know. I didn't hear His Holiness the Dalai Lama say anything, but if he did say that, in that case, the Dalai Lama was wrong. I don't mind sort of criticizing anybody, even criticizing myself. But anyway, it turned out it was a misquote. When I said that and put it in the newspaper, it was published in the opinion column representing the Buddhist Society. And they got all this amazing, thank you, mean we can still be Buddhists and come to the Buddhist centre? So yeah, it's a stigmatising which I really hated, felt just really upset about. And I meant many times I said that I'd rather have good gay people coming to this Buddhist society than sort of bad, selfish, straight people, we used to call them at the time. And that really worked, because I remember I was so proud to get my little prize for that little speech, which was an invitation to the Gay Pride breakfast. It's only a small thing, and of course I was never gay, but I would support anyone who's been stigmatized. I always try to do that to this day. Even that's one of the reasons why I just gave a lot to the bhikkhuni ordination. Women should not be stigmatized, so they can't be monastics like the males. Why not? For goodness sake, it doesn't make any sense to me. So anyway, that was the sort of stigmatism you try and always stop. And so things like that, which I thought give the spirituality, give religion, whatever you wish to call it, certainly Buddhism, it makes it real. We do have an influence. We really want to make use of it for a better world where people feel more welcome, more at ease, no matter where you're from, no matter who you are. Welcome. Thank you for listening. Okay, we'll get some questions now. Any questions from the floor? We'll get the questions from overseas. Anything from any of you? You got a question there? No? Okay. From overseas. Okay, here we go. Excellent. I'll try and do them quickly, and because sometimes questions go on, if you do need to leave, again, the door of the Buddhist Society is always open to you to come in or to go out. Oh, okay. These are some questions which have nothing to do much with this talk, the first one anyway. If the universe is curved, there is no beginning or end to it, and there is no God who would have created it, then how do we know to act with love and kindness? Does it even matter how we act? You know, years ago, I gave a talk at, I forgot the name. What's the top girls' school in Perth? That's St Hilda's, that's right, St Hilda's, thank you. And you know who the principal of St Hilda's was? The wife of Dean Roberts, who was used to be the Dean of St George's Cathedral. And so I remember just having this discussion with her and her husband, and she kept on saying, without God there's no love and compassion. And I said, no, you can't say that. She said, no, that's my core belief. So that means I don't have any love and compassion. So little by little anyway, just compassion just comes from being a human being, from being sensitive, being open, and also from being very peaceful and still. One of the monks, I was having a discussion with him, and we were just saying that once you have a very deep meditation, you're really still. When you come out afterwards, you have so much love and kindness. And that was actually just a result of me telling about my preceptor. And my preceptor wasn't Ajahn Chah. At that time when I ordained, he wasn't allowed to be a preceptor yet. My preceptor was this monk in Bangkok, who eventually became the acting Sangharaja of Thailand. His name was Somdet Buddhajan. He did come to Perth many years ago to give the novice ordination to Ajahn Brahmali and Ajahn Apichato when they became novices, so he did that for them. But anyway, that he could only stay for 1 or 2 days because he got a telephone call in front of the hall at Bodhinyana Monastery. He had to go back. One of his chief supporters had died. So he didn't stay too long. But I always remember him. But I remember just because he was my preceptor and he was a very, very kind man. He even went to England once and he said, "Do you want me to call your mum?" I said, "Oh, you could, you." And I gave the telephone number, and later on I found out my mum said, "This really strange fellow called me one day. His English was not very good." And so that was the head monk of Thailand. He didn't lie, he realised there's nothing really wrong. But anyway, I always thought he just studied. But he didn't just study, because I remember him telling me that he had to learn meditation in his basic training as a monk, and he was meditating in the coconut grove. And that's when he, after an hour or two of meditation, when he came out, there was a snake coiled up on his lap. And, he knew the snakes. That was a venomous one. Like one bite and he'd be dead. And then coiled up on his lap. He said the amazing thing was, when he came out of meditation, there was absolutely no fear, just so much kindness. That's where a lot of kindness comes from peace. The more still you are, the more relaxed you are, the more kindness comes up automatically. You just can't get upset. And that's actually said in the text too. Anybody who's just had the 5 hindrances just suppressed, they don't have any arati, which is non-kindness. There's another word for non-kindness. So little by little, he just saw this snake there and just gave it so much kindness. And he was so surprised, he wasn't at all scared, no worry at all. And then of course after 10 or 15 minutes the snake uncoiled and just went away. So often I've seen that, when you don't have any fear. Over in Bodhinyana Monastery, remember when I did my 6 months silent retreat, never saw any human being, but I did see this big snake, a big dugite. It was about 3 meters long. And I knew that because it was a hot day, and it just came to my hut just to get some shade. And I built those huts. And just on the outside, its tail just managed to be shorter, the tail to head stretched out just shorter. Was it short? About almost exactly the same size as one of the sides of the hut. It's 2.4 meters inside, and it was 270 was the brickwork with the cavity, 240 plus 540, 2.4 meters by 0.54 meters, 2.94, that was its length. So it wasn't exaggerated, I was just measuring it. And when it came up to me, I was just washing my bowl and just had a look at me, had a look at it, and then just carried on washing my bowl. But strikingly, it says, that'll be it, dead. We weren't scared. That's a weird thing, because you're doing lots of meditation. And then when I turned around again to see what happened to the snake, it had its tail pointed towards me. Its head was on the opposite direction. It just totally unfazed by me as I was unfazed by it, just letting it have some shade. That's all. That's what happens with no lack of fear.
IWS Aviation.
Roundup.
He pushed the trigger with his thumbs, like so.
Then he was murdered.
I believe so.
What happened to your pinky toe?
This person was shot from 6 to 7 feet away. It's like somebody stood over him and bam!
Holly Gribbs has been shot. She's in surgery now. Apparently the suspect returned to the scene.
That's not my son's voice.
Ten to 10. Sponsored by.
For the first time in Sri Lanka, manage your SLT Mobitel home services with Alexa. Now, you can buy your ultra-fast fiber connection online through sltmobitel.lk and get special discounts.